Could a simple handful of nuts at your kitchen counter be quietly helping you stay sharp, or even quietly causing trouble? Today, you're going to learn exactly which 4 nuts seniors should be reaching for, and 4 they should be avoiding, with clear, practical serving tips, safety notes for chewing and medications, and easy swaps you can use at once. Hi, I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Senior Healthcare, where we focus on small changes that add years of healthier living. If you want reliable, senior-focused nutrition tips like this, take a second to subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss future videos. And before we move deeper, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read them and they help shape what we cover next. Let's start with the good news. Not all nuts are created equal. 4 of them offer real benefits for older adults: almonds, walnuts, pistachios, and Brazil nuts. And each comes with practical serving ideas, storage tips, and a couple of simple cautions. After we cover those, we'll switch gears and talk about 4 nuts to avoid or limit: peanuts, cashews, macadamia nuts, and pine nuts, and why they can be riskier for seniors. I'll save a surprising and important warning about pine nuts for last, so stay with me. Almonds are an easy place to begin. They're common, affordable, and they pack nutrients that matter as we age. Almonds are a good source of calcium and magnesium, minerals linked to bone health, and they're rich in monounsaturated fats that support heart health. For a memory-friendly serving, think about 15-20 almonds a day as a reasonable snack portion for most older adults. That's a small, satisfying handful that can be eaten as is or added to breakfast or salads. Practical tips: keep the skin on. The thin brown skin contains fiber and antioxidants, and eating almonds with the skin preserves more of those benefits. If chewing is difficult, soak almonds in water overnight to soften them, then chop or blend into a smooth almond butter or porridge topper. Dry roasted or raw almonds are fine. Avoid heavily sugared or honey-roasted varieties if you're watching blood sugar or extra calories. Storage matters for almonds too. Store them in an airtight container in the fridge or freezer if you don't plan to use them within a few weeks. This prevents oils from turning rancid. If anyone in the household has a nut allergy, handle almonds carefully and keep separate utensils. A couple of cautions. Almonds are still calorie-dense, so portion control helps prevent unplanned weight gain. Also, if you or the person you care for has trouble swallowing whole nuts, chop or grind them, or opt for smooth nut butters that don't contain added sugars or hydrogenated fats. Next up, walnuts. Walnuts are one of the few common nuts higher in ALA. That's alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fat. Omega-3s are best known for calming inflammation and supporting heart and brain health. For seniors looking to support cognition and healthy circulation, a handful of walnut halves, roughly 7 to 9 halves, is an easy nightly snack to remember. Some people find a few walnut halves in the evening helps their sleep routine too, thanks to naturally occurring compounds that support relaxation. Practical tips for walnuts. They turn rancid faster than many other nuts because of their higher polyunsaturated fat content, so refrigeration is especially important. Keep walnuts in an airtight container in the fridge and use within a month or 2, or freeze for longer storage. If your teeth are sensitive, chop walnuts into smaller pieces and mix them into yogurt or oatmeal rather than biting into whole halves. Also, walnuts pair beautifully with fruit and grains. Sprinkle them on porridge, add them to a salad, or blend a few into a smoothie for texture and a boost of omega-3s. As with all nuts, keep an eye on portion size. A small handful provides concentrated calories and fats that are healthful in moderation. Pistachios are the third nut I want you to love. They bring a different set of strengths: potassium, which helps with blood pressure regulation, and lutein and zeaxanthin, carotenoids that support macular health and vision. A practical, memorable serving is about 49 pistachios. That sounds oddly specific, but it's a level that nutrition guides often use as a one-serving estimate. The real trick with pistachios is that buying them in the shell can slow you down. Peeling them is a natural portion control method that many seniors find helpful. Pistachios are also a gentler option for teeth. Shelled pistachios tend to be softer than some other nuts, and the act of shelling keeps you mindful of how many you eat. They make a great snack on their own, or a crunchy addition to yogurt, roasted vegetables, or grain bowls. Storage and preparation tips. Keep pistachios in the fridge if you plan to store them for more than a few weeks. If salt is a concern because of blood pressure or heart disease, choose unsalted or lightly salted versions. If chewing is challenging, crush pistachios and sprinkle them on softer foods, or use the finely chopped pistachios to top soups or casseroles. Finally, in the love list, Brazil nuts deserve careful attention because they're extremely rich in selenium. Selenium is a trace mineral that supports thyroid function and the immune system. For many older adults, a single Brazil nut a day can provide a significant portion of the recommended selenium intake. So the idea here is moderation. Limit Brazil nuts to 1 or 2 per day. Think of them as a powerful supplement-like food, rather than a snack you avoid counting. A couple of practical points. Because selenium can build up in the body if you eat too much, don't increase the daily count above 2 without checking with your clinician. Store Brazil nuts in the fridge and buy them from reputable sources. They can become rancid, like other high-fat nuts. If you're using Brazil nuts in baking or chopped over salads, mix them with other nuts so you're not unintentionally consuming several at once. Selenium is helpful in reasonable amounts, but excess intake over time may be harmful, especially for people on certain medications or those with particular metabolic concerns. Always treat Brazil nuts as a high-potency food and keep to the low daily limit. Those are the 4 nuts to seek out: almonds, walnuts, pistachios, and Brazil nuts, each with a clear serving guideline and practical storage and preparation tips. Now let's switch to the second half of today's video. 4 nuts seniors should avoid or limit, and why. First on the avoid list is peanuts. Even though most people think of peanuts as nuts, they're actually legumes, and that difference matters. Peanuts are prone to contamination with aflatoxins, a type of toxin produced by certain molds that can develop on stored peanuts and peanut products. Aflatoxin exposure is a long-term concern when storage and sourcing aren't carefully controlled. Peanuts also tend to have a higher omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. While omega-6 fats are not bad on their own, a very high omega-6 intake relative to omega-3s may promote inflammation when overall diet balance is poor. For seniors watching inflammation-related issues, that balance is worth considering. Another point with peanuts is medication interactions. Peanuts and peanut products can contain vitamin K. If you or someone you care for is on anticoagulant medication like warfarin, sudden changes in vitamin K intake can affect how that medication works. I'm not saying do anything with your prescription. I'm saying this is a reason to discuss peanut consumption with the prescribing clinician or your pharmacist, so they can advise based on the whole diet and medication plan. Also, many processed peanut butters and peanut snacks are high in added sugar, salt, and hydrogenated oils. Those additives make the product more calorie-dense and less heart-friendly. If you like peanut butter, choose natural versions with only peanuts and maybe a pinch of salt, or consider switching to almond or walnut butter for a better fatty acid profile. Next is cashews. Cashews often taste mild and pleasant, but they have drawbacks for some older adults. Cashews are higher in carbohydrates compared to other nuts, which can affect blood sugar if eaten in large amounts or in processed forms. More importantly for kidney and bone health, cashews contain oxalates, naturally occurring compounds that can bind to calcium and form kidney stones in susceptible people. For seniors with a history of kidney stones or reduced kidney function, high oxalate foods like cashews can be problematic. That doesn't mean everyone must avoid them. but it does mean they're a nut to approach with caution. If texture is an issue, cashew butter may feel smooth and easier to swallow, but remember to choose unsweetened varieties and watch portion sizes. If you're concerned about oxalates or kidney health, discuss nuts with your clinician or dietitian for personalized guidance. There's also a small note about sensitivity. Cashew shells contain compounds related to urushiol, the same family of chemicals in poison ivy. And although commercial cashews are processed to remove those compounds, people with unusual sensitivities should be cautious. The third nut to limit is macadamia. Macadamias are delicious but very calorie-dense and relatively high in saturated fat compared to other tree nuts. For many seniors, appetite and activity levels change with age. Eating small portions of very high-calorie foods can unintentionally contribute to weight gain. That matters because excess weight can strain joints, worsen mobility, and increase the risk of metabolic disease. Macadamias are also firmer than some other nuts, which can be a challenge if you have dental issues or weak chewing strength. If you enjoy macadamias as an occasional treat, keep them occasional. A small number as part of a mixed nut portion is fine, but relying on them as a daily snack is not advised for most older adults. The fourth and most surprising nut on the avoid list is pine nuts. Pine nuts are often small and subtly flavored, and they show up in pesto and many Mediterranean dishes. The reason they earn the most surprising warning is twofold. First, some people experience pine mouth after eating certain pine nuts. Pine mouth is a bitter or metallic taste in the mouth that can appear a day or two after eating the nuts and last for 1 to 2 weeks. It's unpleasant, not dangerous, but it can be disruptive to appetite and quality of life. Second, pine nuts are active in ways that may interfere with medications and have a greater tendency to oxidize into inflammatory compounds, especially if they're old or stored improperly. Pine nuts have also been linked in some discussions to concerns about eye health in susceptible people, primarily because they can influence inflammatory pathways and oxidation. For seniors who take multiple medications or who have concerns about macular degeneration, pine nuts are worth avoiding or replacing in recipes. In pesto and other recipes that call for pine nuts, choose substitutes like walnuts or sunflower seeds. Walnuts provide a boost of ALA, plant omega-3s, and a rich flavor. Sunflower seeds give a similar texture and are often cheaper and more shelf-stable. These swaps preserve taste while reducing the unique risks pine nuts can pose for older adults. Beyond the specific risks of each avoid nut, there are a few shared issues to keep in mind: rancidity, choking and chewing hazards, and medication interactions. Rancidity happens when the unsaturated fats in nuts oxidize over time, especially at room temperature, and when exposed to light, heat, or air. Rancid nuts taste bitter and can contain oxidized compounds that promote inflammation. The practical fix for rancidity is straightforward. Buy nuts in small quantities, check the best buy date, buy from reputable sources, and store them in an airtight container in the refrigerator or freezer if you don't use them quickly. If a nut smells or tastes off, discard it. It's not worth the risk. Choking and dental safety are critical for seniors. Whole nuts can be a choking risk for people with swallowing difficulties or reduced dentition. If that applies to you or someone you care for, change how you serve nuts. Chop them finely, grind them into butters, sprinkle powdered or finely chopped nuts on soft foods, or use seed alternatives that might have a gentler texture. For caregivers, never leave a bowl of whole nuts within reach of someone with a high fall or choking risk without supervision. Medication interactions deserve a clear but cautious mention. Certain nuts and nut products may interact with common medications. For example, peanut-related vitamin K variations can influence warfarin anticoagulation, and some nut oils or supplements may interact with medications for blood pressure or cholesterol in subtle ways. The rule of thumb is simple. Before making major dietary changes or adding a new concentrated food like daily Brazil nuts, discuss it with the clinician who prescribes your medications or the pharmacist who understands your full list of drugs. They can advise on timing, monitoring, or any need for lab checks. Now for some practical, everyday strategies you can use starting today to keep the benefits and reduce the risks. First, do a pantry check right now. Scan your jars and bags. If you have peanuts, cashews, macadamias, or pine nuts, and you're concerned about the risks I described, consider replacing them with almonds, walnuts, pistachios, or one carefully measured Brazil nut. If you keep peanut butter that's high in sugar or hydrogenated oils, swap it for natural almond or walnut butter. This is one of the quickest, most visible swaps you can make. Second, portion control made simple. Pre-portion single servings into small containers or snack bags when you open a new package. Measuring out 1 handful or counting almonds to 15-20 or walnuts to 7 to 9 halves and sealing the rest away is a tiny habit that prevents mindless overeating. If you enjoy pistachios, choose in-shell versions to slow consumption naturally. Third, store nuts correctly. For everyday use within 2 weeks, a cool, dark pantry is okay, but for longer storage, keep them in the refrigerator or freezer in airtight bags. This is especially important for walnuts and Brazil nuts, which oxidize faster. Label containers with date opened so you don't accidentally keep a bag too long. Fourth, texture adjustments. If chewing is a problem, soften nuts by soaking them, chop them finer, use ground nut meal, or switch to smooth nut butters without added sugar. Mix chopped nuts into softened foods like yogurt, mashed banana, or cooked cereals. For people with dentures, finely chopped or blended nuts are less likely to cause discomfort. Fifth, watch for signs of rancidity and contamination. Moldy smelling nuts, an acrid smell, a flimsy or chewy texture where it should be crisp. Those are signs to toss them. When buying, look for reputable brands and consider buying smaller packages more often to keep things fresh. Sixth, when it comes to Brazil nuts, treat them as a high-potency item, 1 to 2 per day and no more, unless your clinician advises otherwise. Keep them separate from your everyday mixed nut snack so you don't accidentally eat multiple Brazil nuts in a serving. Seventh, for those on blood thinners like warfarin or who are on complex medication regimens, keep a consistent intake of vitamin K-containing foods and discuss nut choices with your clinician. Don't change your diet abruptly. If you want to swap peanuts for almonds, mention it during the next medical visit or call your pharmacist for quick guidance. Eighth, if you bake or cook with nuts, substitute risky options with safer ones. Use walnuts or sunflower seeds instead of pine nuts in pesto, use chopped almonds rather than cashews in granola, and choose smaller amounts of macadamias for occasional treats rather than daily snacks. Let's close with a short prioritized checklist you can act on today. 1. Look in your pantry for peanuts, cashews, macadamias, and pine nuts. Consider replacing them with almonds, walnuts, pistachios, or a measured 1 to 2 Brazil nut habit. 2. Portion nuts into single-serving containers to prevent overeating. Remember the memory numbers, about 15-20 almonds, 7 to 9 walnut halves, around 49 pistachios, and only 1-2 Brazil nuts per day. 3. Move nuts that oxidize quickly, like walnuts and Brazil nuts, into the refrigerator in airtight containers. 4. If swallowing or dental issues are present, chop, soak, or choose smooth nut butter with no added sugar or hydrogenated oils. 5. If you take blood thinners or other medications, mention any nut habit changes to your clinician or pharmacist before making big changes. Which single step will you take first? Will you swap out a jar of peanut butter, check the shelf for pine nuts, or measure out small snack packs for the week? Tell me in the comments which nut you snack on most and which swap you'll try. If you found this helpful, please subscribe for more senior-focused nutrition and health tips. Thanks for watching, and take care. Small changes today can add up to better health tomorrow.